Hello everyone, Dominic here from the British Esports Association. Thanks for tuning in to another one of our streams. We've got our second off the record interview today, and I've just noticed the title's wrong at the top of this broadcast. I've updated the title everywhere else and I've forgotten the main bit on the intro, haven't I? Got a great guest joining us today. I've interviewed him several times over the years, but I think we're due an update. As you all know, it's Odee, the Managing Director at London Royal Ravens and Chief Gaming Officer at Rektglobal, which also has the Rogue brand. So I'm going to, without further ado, get straight into this because I've got so many questions. And if you have any questions to ask Odee about team management, how esports has changed, player management, anything like that, please ask it in the chat and I'll do my best to answer those questions where I can, but I've got a lot myself as well, so hopefully this is very useful to all of you. So I'm just going to unmute Mr. Odee now and bring him in. Odee, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Yeah, sunny weather. How is it where you are?
It's really nice today. Doors are open, windows are open, dogs are running around, so apologies when they do bark, and they will.
Nice, excellent. Okay, well, thanks for joining us, Odee. I've given you that introduction. Maybe you could start by telling us about your day job, because your job has changed a lot over the past few years, right? From what you were doing at Dignitas, you were, of course, the founder of Dignitas, and now you're Chief Gaming Officer at Rektglobal. What's your day-to-day role like nowadays, Odee, to give an overview for people watching?
Right now, it always has been since I've been in esports. Every day is different. It's never the same. There's always something going on. At the moment, obviously, with COVID, trying to wear trousers, that's kind of what I'm trying to do sometimes a week. I think I've managed it once in the last 2 weeks, wear an actual pair of trousers or pants, as the Americans call them. So really, like my day-to-day, like I said, it varies a lot. So right now, it's very situational and reacting to what's going on. So this week, for example, spent the whole weekend trying to sign a player for New York Subliners, which we just announced, Dre. Zero. So that's just announced to join our Call of Duty lineup. Rektglobal is growing fast, so been doing a lot of trying to bring all the different groups in Rektglobal together, from the social team, because you've got social team for Rogue and for Call of Duty and for Greenlit and all of these other things that we do. So trying to get it all closer together, because this Rektglobal is pretty massive, to be perfectly honest, which is why I joined them in the first place. Yeah. So it could be anything from dealing with sending care packages of Monster Munch and baked beans out to the Call of Duty team who are based in North Carolina, to signing sponsorship deals. Yeah, it's really good. And the bit that I love the most is dealing with players and helping them win tournaments. Yeah, it's always different. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It's 24/7, unless I'm asleep. And anything can happen, and it does.
And even then, you're probably still dreaming about esports, right?
Actually, I can't remember the last. Actually, no, I don't dream that often. Literally, once I'm out, and then when I wake up, I'm going again. It never stops unless I'm cleaning my fish tanks, which I have to do.
Nice. And before we went live, we were talking about that because you used to have a stream before on Twitch, right, of your fish outside, and I kind of missed that, but it wasn't that interactive, so Twitch took it off, right?
Yeah, it was before they started doing the just chatting and the different things that they do. It was just cameras in my pond, and people were watching my fish swim around, and Twitch banned my channel because the fish didn't interact with chat. I don't know what they want me to do, put a bloody keyboard in a pond or whatever, but yeah, so I stopped doing that. So that was, time flies. That was three and a half years ago.
Oh dear.
And I've actually just started streaming early April, started streaming again, just playing Call of Duty, shouting at the screen a lot.
Nice. And while we're talking about the Ravens, Odee, what's it been like? You know, we're in lockdown at the moment, but like you say, your team are based in the States anyway. So has it changed your day-to-day role that much for you?
I think it's been a little bit more intense because we just literally completed our training facility in Charlotte, which is just down the road from where the guys live. The guys have their own apartments, which is great. We don't have a gaming house. I hate gaming houses. We'd actually just finished it, and we were just about to do a lot of filming around it because it's really cool. Because we have a sponsor that's kitted it out, and it's really cool. And we had to pull the video shoot for that because everything got shut down. So for the players, it's just been making sure that their well-being is looked after whilst we're still competing, because obviously the league switched to online, and as everybody knows now, being at home all the time is not normal. When you can't go out, I think America hasn't been like the UK as badly like lockdown like we have here. But just getting the guys like into a routine and keeping them in that routine when they're in apartments. It's been interesting to do. Obviously, we have coaches out there as well, so they're with them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my questions I wanted to ask you, Odee, because you've worked with a lot of players over the years, and esports has changed a lot in the past 2 decades, right? What's it like managing pro players nowadays compared to back when you first got into esports? Because, when people ask me about esports, they say, "Oh, there's a lot of money in esports, Dom." I say, "Well, it's kind of the game publishers." For me, it seems that the game publishers and the players themselves seem to, take a lot of that money, and there's a lot more player power nowadays. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, but like esports has had stages. So for me, like this is my 3rd decade in esports, which is scary to say. And at the beginning, like esports wasn't called esports. It was just we're gonna go play online and have a laugh with your mates and form a team and hopefully like get to a level that I wanted to be, which was the best, and win tournaments. And back then, like winning tournaments like 2003, 4. That's when I was regularly winning Battlefield tournaments. We were winning like computer cases that we didn't even want. There was hardly anybody, and even at that point, I really wasn't thinking about actually just before Battlefield. I wasn't really thinking about actually creating a team and trying to make it into a business. It was just I wanted to be the best in the world at what I was doing, and that's all I really cared about. Like even when I started in '99, I got into it by accident because I got injured playing football. And I read these guys were earning money playing in tournaments, and I thought, what the hell, I can do that. And that's how I started. So just started competing. I knew I was good at games. I'd always been good at games. And then I started winning little cups. And there were some really cool platforms around at that time, one called Wireplay, which was an online platform you could just join and jump into servers with other people that wanted to compete. And a really cool one called Barry's World, which turned out it was kind of like the Premier League in the UK at that time. Like you had like Division like 6F, like a Barry's League going right up to Division 1A. Like to get to that level, like you were playing with some of the best players in the world at the time. So yeah, for me it was just I just wanted to win, which obviously I still do now.
Absolutely. Before I get into my questions and going back and asking about that time, Odee, I'm going to give Twitch chat a chance here. There's a silly question that's come through from someone. I don't know if this is an in-joke. If it's not, then I'm going to wait until the end before I pass more of these questions to you. It's Ceiling Tim 1 has ask Odee how many eggs he'd use to make a souffle.
I don't think I've ever made one. I know what the reference is, though.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. All right. I see that. Yep. Not wanted to share. That's fine. Okay. So one of my main questions here was going back a bit, Odee. You've mentioned those initial days. I was going to ask about playing Battlefield, and you played, as a player back then. You founded Dignitas on September 3rd, 2003. Is that correct? The merger of 2 clans. What were the origins there?
So I'm going to call it Team Dignitas because that's what it was. I think it was 9th of September, top of my head.
Right.
Literally, Battlefield demo came out in, I think, the end of 2002. I could be beginning of 2003. I can't remember. But it was so good that I just wanted to be in the best team. So I kind of broke off from playing. I think I was playing Wolfenstein at that time. Broke off from playing that, and I nicked a couple of players from that team and the Quake team that I used to play for, and put together a team to play Battlefield. Can't even remember what we were called. Should check this before I came on. It was okay, but it wasn't the best, and I wanted to be the best. So I took the two best players that we had, and I just went to the best team, which at the time I thought was a team called Legion Condor, LCD. And I just said, look, we're really good. Like, give us a trial. And took ages to convince them. It seemed like ages, 3 weeks to convince them to let us play. And then we eventually got in. Because the games then were like 8v8, 10v10. Sometimes Battlefield games were 12v12.
Yeah.
It was hard to get players. And like everybody was either at school. Well, actually, to be honest, most people were at school because at that age, when I played then, I was the oldest.
How old were you?
I think it was 29.
Right, okay.
When that came along. Well, actually, no, probably about 30, 31, actually, when I started Battlefield.
Right.
So I knew I didn't have much time left to compete at that level, but I just wanted to be the best.
Yeah.
And then because we were having struggles like actually fielding like a full team, and one of the other best teams was having the same problem, Swedish team called Companix, we decided to merge. And then that was Team Dignitas. That was the start of that. Because I was the eldest, they put me in charge, and that's how that happened. Really, didn't really plan it; it just kind of happened.
Right, and was that your first experience with esports then, Odee? Was it seeing the likes of Barry's World? What was your first experience in this?
First experience was Wireplay. It was Christmas '99. I started playing Duke Nukem,
right,
which was a fantastic FPS game.
Yeah.
Probably not one for kids, that's for sure. Some of the content is. But
I was one of those kids, and I shouldn't have played the thing. I remember going to a LAN part. Well, my dad had some friends around, and they were playing it over LAN. But it's a good old classic game. Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. No, and I won the tournament. I won Wireplay, and that was the first time I thought, this is cool. I think I won a £20 voucher or something. I was well happy with that. And that was that. And then Quake came along, and Quake was just another level of what I'm going to swear, what the fuck. When I joined that first server, and there was rockets flying around all over the place.
Yeah.
And these were not bots; these were actual real people controlling these shots.
Yeah.
I was just hooked. So I got into Quake 3 CTF. Basically, I love CTF, and I was a flag defender. And
Nice.
Went from there, played that top level, UK national team, played for some of the best teams in Europe. But I wanted to make some money because at that time, StarCraft players and Counter-Strike players were starting to get paid.
Yeah.
And team houses were popping up, and there were salaries going around. And it just never happened for Quake. Don't know why. Really annoying.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? Thinking back to all those FPSs it was like the beginnings of esports, wasn't it? Even Doom, I don't remember, but I've read up on there being some initial Doom tournaments back in the day that id held at their offices and things like that, and that's like the beginnings of esports, right? A lot of those early FPSs, and you played Battlefield yourself, so in a way you've gone full circle now with the Ravens and in Call of Duty. Yeah,
well, I've been in Call of Duty since 2004, so actually Call of Duty was part of when we switched to becoming a multi-gaming team. So Call of Duty wasn't big back then; it just come out. So we signed one of the top Call of Duty teams in Europe, and also the best enemy territory team in the world, and they joined us. And that was when we started building ourselves. We had top teams in all these so-called small games.
Yeah.
Which ultimately led to sponsorships coming our way because we had a big fan base. We just didn't realise what we had at the time, really.
And how did you find that out as well? Because this is before the age of all these internet platforms we have nowadays with Twitter, where it's easy to look at your audience and Google Analytics and things like that. It would have been harder to track that back then, right?
We had stats from our website, so we knew the website stats were growing, but that was it because Twitter wasn't around. There was no Twitch. It was just website stats, and we knew people were coming to our website. People were watching some of the ITG tournaments, like way back then. DJ Wheat and those guys used to like broadcast.
Yeah.
And how they did that, I really don't know. But nobody back then really thought that this was like around that time. No one thought. I think nobody thought that this would be like mainstream level at that point. I think everybody knew it was going to get big, but nobody knew how fast that would happen or how that would happen. And I still think today, even though it's as big as it is, I still don't think anybody's got it perfectly right on what esports is right now yet.
I tend to...
It will happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree. There's a lot of analysts out there. There are some ones that seem to be pretty good, but then there's other reports and things I see, press releases in my inbox, and I think, are those numbers right? It doesn't always add up, and I'd like to see more data specifically for UK esports. I know that UK, the games trade body, are looking at doing something there, so hopefully we'll get better data and things like that. One thing I wanted to ask you, did you have any standout moments from your time playing? Do you have any memories that you'd like to share of any, close matches or funny moments?
I think my last game, I remember that vividly, actually. I remember winning it. I remember pretty much most of the game. I can see it in my head. But it was before the game. This was 2006. We literally just signed Intel as a sponsor the day before. And when we were doing our tactics session before, I think it was the clan-based European Championship final, before the tactics, and this was like a weekday, like, I don't know, 5 o'clock in the evening after I got home from work. And at that point, we just had our second child. So we've got 2 young kids running around, a full-time job, got home from work, do the tactics. So I'm doing in emails to Intel and our other sponsors at that time. No idea what was going on in the tactics session. I wasn't really paying attention because I knew roughly what I had to do. But like most players, you get a little bit cocky and a bit complacent about tactics. You think you know best. And we get into the game, and Odee, one of the calls was, "Odee, do it now." And I'm like, "Oh shit, what am I supposed to do?" And I think I said in game, like, "What? Do what?" And they said, "Get the APC," and it was a special tactic. And luckily, I kind of guessed it, but luckily I did it just in time, and it won us the game. And if I hadn't done it, we would have lost the game. We would have lost that European Championship.
Oh,
so that sticks in my head. Duke Nukem, that first tournament, 1999, winning that, I remember that. It was like, yes, I'm looking around me and no one around me because no one was watching. Quake, playing Quake, like, I miss that game so much. It was so fast. And like Sam Matthews, one thing that sticks in my head, Sam Matthews was my teammate, the Fnatic owner. And we used to fake nick on public servers when we were practicing, just playing for fun. And I remember he called me a cheat and a hacker once because he was attacking my base, and every time he came in, I killed him. And I remember he calling me a cheat. It was actually my teammate. It made me laugh.
So that's before he set up Fnatic.
Yeah. So literally we were on the same team, and I'm sure we had a chat one night, like talking about like how big this could get. Like Fnatic appeared after Dig. I think it was like 10 months after. But like most people don't know, Fnatic was called Creatura for about half a year, right. And then they changed to Fnatic.
I didn't know that. Creatura, what, like creature?
Creaturin, I think it was called, or Ren.
Okay.
Google that, somebody will find it somewhere.
Okay.
And yeah, I remember that conversation. But again, even at that point, it wasn't called esports. No one knows where that term even came from. To be perfectly honest, I can't remember much about tournaments, apart from we won a lot. Going to Germany, winning a semi-final on a LAN in Germany, and you could like the other team we were playing were like 4 rows down, and I just remember this German guy got up and smashed his keyboard and his monitor when we beat them. I remember that. That was quite cool. Just weird things that through the years, like Martin Bell, who was the MP news presenter, he interviewed me once, and it was me and Sujoy. We were being interviewed playing Counter-Strike, and he asked me like how we did a headshot, and he asked me how I felt now I killed the guy in the game. I was like, "What are you talking about? I don't get it. It's a game." And I didn't know at the time he was doing a documentary on the Iraq War. And
dear.
Yeah, very weird.
And did that get used for the documentary then?
I have absolutely no idea.
Oh dear.
No idea.
Wow.
So I miss playing. Like I played like the odd thing after I retired. I won a World in Conflict tournament with our team once, which is the only RTS I've ever played that I've actually won something in. I had no idea what was really going on, but we won it. And Space Invaders tournaments after that. I do like Space Invaders.
Wow, okay. Well, just for the people in the chat that aren't aware, Sujoy is Sujoy Roy. He's billed as the UK's first pro gamer, right? So he was doing that stuff. It was around a similar time to you, I guess, but he had the
but he was the guy that I saw that, what the hell, he just had how much? $200,000 deal with Razer to play professionally. And I was like, yep, I want to do that. So for me, he's one of my inspirations.
Fantastic. Odee, yeah, you mentioned about you don't know where the term esports came from. That's an interesting point because it's supposed to stand for electronic sports, as I'm aware. But there are a lot of people in the industry that don't really like that term, and I know there are people in the fighting game community or FGC that really don't like being called esports. Well, that's strange, isn't it? Did you just see it crop up one day and then it started to become the norm?
It just appeared. It just became the norm, yeah. But the FGC, they've always tried to stay out on their own, but they're part of esports, whatever they think. So, no one knows where it came from. It could have been like esports World Cup. It could have been that. I really don't know.
No problem. Odee, one thing I want to ask about, and this is when I started getting into, I probably started getting into esports around 2011, so it was a few years before, but I remember the economic crash of 2007, 2008, and I remember talking to you about this before, and that, I think you may have said to me something like that was a make or break time as an esports org owner because you had to weather the storm. Did you see a lot of sponsorships dry up through then? Was Dignitas close to going under?
We weren't close to going under because I had a proper job. So my proper job was kind of propping everything up on my 6 or 7 credit cards that got up to a lot of money on those cards. So we had those, but I think the worst period for us it was really the year after the recession. Right. So the recession hit in 2008, and luckily for us, Championship Gamer Series was happening. If that didn't happen, we would have gone under. The reason being, when I joined the CGS, they asked me to not get rid of Dignitas. You're not doing that anymore. And I said, no, I'm definitely doing that. I'll step sideways and backwards, and I'll run it in the background, which I did. So luckily, because I was being paid a stupid salary to do Championship Gaming Series, I was siphoning that off into Dig, and that kept it going. So I kept it going through 2007, 2008. And we had sponsors. It's just some of the sponsors were struggling with their money, so we got some late payments. And that culminated in a LAN in Denmark in 2009. That's probably the worst part of ever running Dignitas. We had 30 players at this tournament in Denmark. So we paid all the flights. And then when it came to that weekend, we had no money in the bank to pay the hotel. So I had to say to the guys, look, sorry, you're going to have to stay in the red rooms at that Danish LAN. If you know the red rooms, my series, it's basically sleeping in a sleeping bag. Which is what I used to do at most tournaments I ever went to, so it never bothered me. But that's at the time where you started getting some of the first divas in esports around 2009. So that was awkward and embarrassing that we just couldn't pay the bills. Luckily, we got through that, and not long after that, Twitch came along, and that changed everything for everyone.
That was quite a pivotal moment in esports, right? If you look at 2009 as well, just off the top of my head, League of Legends came along, right? And then they had their World Championship, and that really helped put things on the map as well. And obviously, I don't have this on my list of questions, but you guys were quite, Team Dignitas were prominent in League of Legends. I haven't followed them that much since, but Rektglobal was in a few games. You obviously have Rogue as well. What's your involvement with Rogue, Odee?
So it's total. So as Chief Gaming Officer, I oversee all the gaming teams.
Right, okay.
So I work closely with Anna Baumann, who's the Managing Director of the League of Legends team in Germany.
Right.
And Frank Villarreal, who's the President of Rogue. So he looks after the NA side from Vegas. So I work with those two to help all of our teams. Literally been working closely with those two the last couple of weeks, actually, on lots of different ways that we can help our players win, basically.
So obviously the title of this series that we've launched on Twitch at the British Esports Association is Off the Record. So we try and it's been great so far because you've been very open and honest. So I will throw in some difficult questions now and then, but I guess one of them is how does your job now compare to what you were doing at Dignitas towards the end? You know, are you enjoying what you're doing more now? I'm guessing the role changed quite a bit, because I remember there was a period at Dignitas where your role changed and you weren't doing as much. I think, you know, I remember seeing your chicken dinner tweets on Twitter and things like that.
Yeah, I played a lot of PUBG. Yeah, like towards the end, like just the way the company changed, and it was really run out of like East Coast of America, which is understandable, and that's why we came to an agreement that I'm too good at what I do. I'm modest, and I just said, look, I need to do what I do, and that's that. So we came to an agreement, and I was expecting like, okay, by the end of the year I should get something. I had 9 offers in 24 hours. Which was nice, because when you leave a job, like it's natural to be like nervous. And yeah, I love competing, and that's what I needed to do. So when I got a chance to join Rektglobal and seeing what they had, and like I said at the beginning, they're massive now. They're not just a gaming team. They don't just have an NEC team, a Call of Duty franchise. We have a media buying agency. We have a fan engagement platform company. We have a company called Greenlit, one of the biggest viewed tournaments at the moment on Twitch is something called Warzone Wednesday, which is a Call of Duty Warzone tournament. One of our partners, Keemstar, we partner with him to do that tournament. So that's our guys that like do all that, which is nuts. So when I spoke to the Rektglobal guys, when we had a call after I left Dig, and they told me what they had, I was like, send me a contract. I mean, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. And at that point, we weren't even talking about the Ravens. But obviously, I kept an eye on the possibility of Call of Duty franchises when that was announced that was happening, and I noticed that nobody had taken London. Obviously, with London Spitfire, obviously that's part of Cloud9. I was wondering, like, are they going to do it? Are they going to take it? So when I went to Recton, I said it would be pretty cool to get the Ravens, and we applied and we got it. That was literally 4 weeks into joining, so that was like a bit mind blowing. And then it's gone very fast, and we did our first actual event. So I wasn't planning on like running events or doing the planning around any of that at all when I joined Rekt. But we actually did our first event at Copperbox, and hopefully once COVID buggers off, we can start doing events again and go to tournaments and actually be on stage, because the UK crowd is absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
So it's been a roller coaster. So compared to what I was doing at the end of Dig, compared to what I used to do when I ran Dig, it wasn't what I wanted. And I'm glad that we and thanks to them that we did come to an agreement, so I could go and do something else straight away.
Yeah.
But now I love it. I absolutely love it doing what I'm doing now.
That's good.
I'm dealing with new players, like you said. Like I've dealt with a lot of players. I think I counted it up. I think it's like 1,100 players I've managed now.
Dear. What, during your career?
Yeah, and that's a lot of players. So it's pretty cool. I'm loving it. You can see I'm smiling. So
definitely.
Yeah, it's like signing this player at a weekend. That was hard, and we had to do it quickly. Thanks to COVID again, because our subs, even though they have visas, we can't get them out to America at the moment. So we had one of our guys turn up at the airport last week, full with visa and everything, and they turned him back and said you can't go, which meant we had to sign someone very quickly.
No problem. Just before I go on to my next question, we've got a friendly person in the chat here just saying hi. It's someone called Cluxar. It was awesome meeting you at London, Michael. Thanks for taking care of me. Really appreciate it. Never been welcomed like that before. And I think they asked about what's the best way to get in touch to apply for a job as a photographer over at Rogue, Rekt and London Ravens. I'm guessing you have a careers page on your websites. Yeah,
there is on the Rektglobal site. There is. It's like this guy. Like the best way to get like anywhere in esports is to like fight for it. Like literally fight your way in. Like you can't just like stand there and hope that something will pick you up. So this guy, he actually wanted to be our photographer for that event, but we'd already got one. But the way he wrote to me, I remember like people that do it the right way. And I got to the event, and I think the Paris owners were there, and they were like, "Oh, we got let down by our photographer." And I was like, "Actually, I know a guy. I think he's actually here." So I introduced him to them, and he got a job working for Paris for the weekend. So, so that's the way in.
That's brilliant. Yeah. Do you have any tips for? Yeah, I'm sure there's people watching this, and I'll do a little clip on our YouTube, maybe a 5-10 minute clip of advice for people looking for work in esports. We do a lot of content around this at the British Esports Association, but I think someone like yourself with that experience, Odee, I think people will look up to you. Any other tips you have, maybe for aspiring managers? Because setting up a team now is a lot harder, right, than it was when you set yours up.
I think everything's a lot harder now, purely because it's becoming... It's professional now, like fully professional, and there are like billionaires and investment groups now, so everything's a lot more professional and everything's done properly. So when we set up Dignitas, like it was like, okay, like we're a team now. Now what do we do? We compete. That's it. That's all we do. And when we got our first sponsor, we weren't even thinking about that. The sponsor came to us and said, "We want to give you 10 grand. Can we put a logo on your shirt?" And we were like, "You can give us 10 grand, but we don't have a shirt." So they made us some shirts. And I think the shirt that I actually made, I think it's in the museum, the Esports Museum. Is it Sheffield or Bradford?
Oh, wow. So there is, I know that the National Video Game Museum in Sheffield wants to do an esports exhibit or something like that, and actually people watching, any subs and donations we're giving to the National Video Game Museum this month and next, so anyone who wants to do that, you're supporting them, helping them stay open during the lockdown. I don't believe they've got one yet, Odee, but I think
I gave it to somebody to go that way.
Yeah, I think my boss, Chester King at British Esports, he's been sort of acquiring jerseys and things over the years and would love to do something like that in the future. So he's amassing them sort of quietly, and maybe that will help with the video game museum in the future. Well, but
he's got it. So and that survived my house fire as well, that shirt. So
brilliant.
But advice, I think is so hard now. Like I think over the 21 years I've been doing this, I think it's just changed. Like at the beginning, it was like really you've got to volunteer. Like there is no money. And then when jobs actually started appearing, it still wasn't until like 2010 that staff were getting paid something. And even then, like from Dignitas, for example, like we just didn't have the money to pay like full-time salaries, like and play players. And where esports in the early days, the developers and the tournament organizers, they didn't pay, like you didn't get, if you qualified nowadays, they pay for you to go. Now back then we had to pay all the travel. Okay, we didn't have salaries really for the players, but then that came in and we were doing salaries and travel. It was really hard. Now, luckily, that's kind of readdressed. That's been rebalanced, I would say. And now, if you qualify for something, they'll pay for you to go. Yeah. But we were spending like a couple of million on like travel alone, and it was really hard. So a lot of volunteers, and I know the mousepad meme's still out there, which does my bloody head in because I haven't got any mouse pads. Can't give you any mouse pads, so don't bloody ask. But yeah, we had a lot of volunteers, and we had a system in Dig where, if you wrote something, you got points. If you got hits, you got points. You got enough points, you could get a jersey or a hoodie. Dig hoodie's pretty cool. Or a mouse pad, because we got them from our sponsors, so it made it easier for us to like give something back. And I'm still pretty proud of like how we did that, and like the amount of people that actually got experience from doing that with us, and actually went on to get full on jobs. Nowadays, like there's still that. I think the volunteer stuff is still there. They just have a posh name for it called interns now, and yeah, you've got to fight for it. Like you don't get nothing for free. You've just got to fight for everything in esports, and you've got to be noticed. So that's kind of my advice. It's pretty bland and pretty generic advice, but you've got to get noticed. So like I remember Cluxer, and I remember the name, but so like normally I wouldn't remember a name, but I remember him.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, it's good. It's good advice, Odee. And just on, I've got a comment from Elliot, who's my colleague at British Esports. British Esports as well, as a not-for-profit body, we're a bit different. We do have quite a lot of volunteers, and I'm very mindful of that as well, you know. But we do have some merch and things on the way, so hopefully we'll be able to say thank you. But we've had, you know, Alice Lehman, who's our schools and colleges liaison officer for the North, she started off as a volunteer for our student championships, and now she's full-time. So it is a good routine, you know, and my colleague Elliot, he said in the chat, my opinion on Dignitas is the best years were during the StarCraft 2 release. Back in 2010, 2011, Dignitas was super feared during those years as they signed players that were so good, like Naniwa, Select, Apollo. That was the first time I really started supporting Dig. They were just phenomenal to watch. And you did, you know, you always go for those best, don't you? I know it sounds obvious, but
we had a plan for StarCraft 2 because we kind of missed Brew War, and we really missed Counter-Strike, although we had Counter-Strike in 2008, 2009, because the Birmingham Salvo team were Dignitas. When CGS died, I signed them back, but they were like top 10 in the world CSGO. And there was always a joke like the UK team, the best they've ever done at ESWC was coming 9th, and that was my team, the Rattlesnake. But we had a plan for StarCraft 2 that we wanted to be up there. It was our chance to like get in with the big boys and and actually expand to America. And that's kind of the time League of Legends came along and started getting big. So our plan was like, okay, StarCraft 2 and League of Legends, let's get an international lineup this time. So we had a list of about 50 players that we wanted to sign, possibility of signing. We had it for like a year before StarCraft 2 release. And we were watching all these players, what they were doing. So Select, for example, was double world champion in Age of Empires. Pretty sure I got that right at World Cyber Games. And we knew he was going to play StarCraft 2. Somebody told us. Apollo actually played for us prior to StarCraft because he was Command & Conquer World Champion.
Right.
And then one day he just said to me, like, Odee, StarCraft 2's coming. I want to be a commentator. Like, how can you help me, like, do this? And he said, like, I want to go to Korea and, like, he gave me a whole plan. And I went to Intel and Alienware, and they helped us get a few grand together to give to Sean to bugger off, learn how to be a commentator, he met like Artos. I think Artos actually put him up when he went and like helped him. But that set Sean's career off, and look where he is now. So he's still in esports looking for ESL. And Select was our number one target. So we signed Select. Naniwa, he wasn't a target at all. He just came along, and he's one of the hardest players I've ever had to manage. And I've actually spoken to him it was last year, and he said to me like, "I was a nightmare, wasn't I?" I'm like, "Yeah, you were an absolute nightmare." But that's where like the top players are normally. Like they're so single-minded in what they want to do. Like me, when I was a player, I wanted to be the best and get out of my way. And if you're in my way, I'm going to knock you out of the way to be the best. So yeah, the StarCraft team, there was some good times. Like we did some really good content around them as well, and that really exploded us globally. So then we started hitting US budgets and global budgets, and we started growing. It was good.
On the note of pro players, Odee, you've said you've worked with over 1,000 in your career, and I've heard from a few over the years that as a manager, you've always been fair but had high expectations. And is that fair to say? And what do you look for in a pro player? Because I remember talking to you once before. You look at players that can keep their calm when they're under pressure. They don't twitch at all. Me, if I'm playing a League of Legends ranked game, I can get a bit nervous.
Well, we've always I don't. What I look for is basically a player that's literally has that the motivation that I had, and it's like a single-minded, selfish desire to win at all costs. That's what I look for. It's really that simple. Everything else you have to mold. So everybody's different. You have to work out how players tick. Some players are just easy. They don't get stressed. They just play. They win because they're cool. Some players get stressed. They'll be shouting at the screen. They'll be shouting all sorts of stuff at the screen. You have to teach them how to control themselves. But even when I play now, I resort to how I used to be before I was playing semi-professionally. And you watch me stream now, I'll be shouting and swearing my head off. But I like players that have passion and want to win. If you lose a tournament at a pro level and you're not happy, something's wrong. It really is.
Yeah, 100%. It's similar to football, isn't it? You hear similar things there as well. Managers that see their players and fans go after it. We're both Arsenal fans, by the way, for people in the chat watching. Arsenal players get it sometimes. I remember Andre Santos, a not very good left back we had years ago, who swapped his shirts with Van Persie after a game, I think, when Van Persie was at Man U, and he was all laughing and joking. It was half time when we were like 2-0 down or 3-0 down. The fans lampooned him. They really went after him. It's similar in esports, right? You need that winning mentality. You don't. That's a warning sign when you see something like that.
Yeah, and especially with team games as well, you've got to get teams that are successful have one goal basically, and that's to win. And then it's how you fit the personalities around practice and in and out of game. Everything it all clicks. So when you run teams like I have and do now, you have to work out what's going on inside the players' heads. And we nowadays, we for Rogue, for example, we have a really good I'm not sure what he's psychologist, he's a sports psychologist, and the stuff that he's done now, I've come back into it, and the planning, for example, for the second split, which starts next week or this week, 25th, something like that. The planning and the personal development of players, it's a whole another level compared to StarCraft 10 years ago. Then it was just calm down. So when I did CGS, I'm standing there on stage, I've got Bazza, and Bazza was a real character to manage because all he wanted to do was go clubbing. So when he was on stage, I'd just lean over and if he'd go 1-0 down, I'm like, Bazza, see that goal, the white thing? Stick the ball in the bloody goal, mate. And he'd start laughing. And it's man management, and that's a real massive thing that I have always been a fan of from when I played sport before I got injured. Man management is absolutely key. So now part of my role is to help our coaches and our sports psychologists, and we'll get more of them, and we'll get outside help, and we're actually man management to actually sport, just like real sport. the thing is, most of the players have never had this done to them before, so they don't really know what's going on. So it's very early days of that kind of stuff right now, even though we're 20 years in.
Definitely. One thing I wanted to mention, Odee, is I haven't mentioned this before. You're a member of the advisory board at the British Esports Association, and you have been since day one when that was formed back in December 2016. And obviously, we really appreciate your support. What's it been like being on the board, being with us? You know, you've provided a lot of input at the grassroots level, at the industry level, with us and UKI, the games trade body, and other grassroots initiatives like their digital schoolhouse. What's that been like? Because you're sort of giving back in a way, aren't you?
Yeah, it's giving back, but also I think initially my thinking, not with British Esports, but especially UKI, was like, how can they help me? So I think UKI started their esports subgroup, and people, if you don't know what UKI is the governing body for the UK games industry, and everybody in the UK games industry or the creative industry is part of UKI, and they talk to government, and government like legislate or they don't legislate on stuff. So UKI basically represent everybody that's a member. So I went to them and I said, look, I'm from esports. This is 2009, 2010. I said, I don't know what I'm going to ask you for, but this is what we do. I'm pretty sure you can help this grow. I believe it's going to be one of the biggest things ever in this country and globally. What can you do? So they started the esports subcommittee. Not a lot really happened for the first few years, but now it's actually rolling. With the British Esports Association, so when you guys popped up, I just wanted to keep a close eye on you. Not for bad reasons for you, but something popped up. God, is it 2005, 6? Called UKESA.
Yeah, I was going to ask about these. I'm glad you brought them up, Odee. Please do tell us about the car crash that was.
Yeah, so back then, like we were chasing kind of mainstream to get on TV. Twitch didn't exist. And basically, UKESA was a land grab to grab esports. So what they did was call it the United Kingdom Esports
Association or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. So they kind of went to all of the big players in the UK at the time and kind of got us all involved. Maybe under false pretenses, maybe not. I still can't work it out. And they wanted to do like a championship and like give exposure, and it sounded good at the time. But obviously we'd never heard of anything like that at the time. So all of us wanted to be a part of it and not let somebody run off and take our esports away. And really, it just was an absolute car crash. So the championships were supposed to be in West London. So we spent 11 grand on like hotels, flying people in for the finals, and then they changed venue last moment to East London. And you can't change hotels that late moment. So so all of our players had to travel on the tube right across to East London from West London, which is a nightmare if you've ever done that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I knew it was going to go horribly wrong when we turned up, because we turned up and the guy came up to us and said, like, you need to go across the road to the supermarket and buy some Call of Duty copies. And that was the first time I kicked off. I went absolutely nuts. It's just an absolute mess. So I was looking at the paperwork for when they went bankrupt the other day. I never heard back from my 11 grand claim. So I just wanted to make sure that British Esports was like genuine, and obviously it is. And some of the stuff that we've been doing in the last few years has been pretty cool. And hopefully it continues to grow. Works with UKI well, works with government well, and like the school systems. Because ultimately all of our players will come through the school systems, and that's really good. So I'm a big advocate for British Esports.
Absolutely. And do you know what? It's really encouraging to see this now, because we've got these tiers. I remember talking to you a long time ago, maybe my first interview with you, it may have been, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, something like that. And you were talking about, when back in the day there wasn't really a path to pro. It was just you're good or you're not good. Whereas now we've got this ecosystem. We've got, so we've got our school and college leagues and digital schoolhouse, and then you've got the likes of the NUL and NSC, the university level. Then you've got grassroots, amateur, semi-pro stuff, like League of Legends. I'll give you an example. There's the UKEL, and then that goes up into the UKLC, and then that goes up into this new Northern League of Legends Championship, the NLC, and then that goes into EU Masters, and so on and so on. And then if you're good enough in the EU Masters, you might get picked up by an LEC team. We've got this ecosystem all the way through now, haven't we? From school age to pro. Is that encouraging?
Yeah, but it's still only foundations. I want to see it develop more so I can one day get some program that's whoever's doing it. So our analysts, our scouts can like put all that data in, and I can think, right, okay, so we're probably going to be looking for this kind of player next year that playing League of Legends is going to be a mid laner, like click, like who's the top of the list, who's like got reaction speed. So like hopefully we get a lot more data centrally so we can keep an eye on players. This is what happens in the collegiate scene in America for sports. It makes it easier to scout players because it's something I've always said. There's probably world champions out there. They just don't know they are world champions, and it's really hard to find them unless they actually do something and make a move themselves. Which is kind of still how it is at the moment. To be perfectly honest, if you don't compete, you'll never progress.
Yeah, there's a gap in the market for something like that. I know in League of Legends there's lolpros.gg. I have a few people that I know that operate there, and that looks at a lot of high tier players and emerging players. But it would be nice to see more of that data, across all games. That's the challenge with esports, right? It's so fragmented. You must have that challenge working in multiple games. They're all so different to each other.
Yeah, but that's where the analysts and the players that are now coming through university, like doing degrees in like sports psychology and stats and analytics and all sorts of things like that, with a mind to move into esports. That's where those people are now starting to appear. So it makes it easier to scout, for example.
Yeah. Odee, I know we're nearly up to the hour mark, so I'm going to try and squeeze in these last few questions here. And if anyone has questions in the chat, please do ask. So we did a Women in Esports panel the other week, Odee, and you were watching in the chat, and you said on the stream that you'd like to see a sustained women's pro circuit in a few games with large sponsors, broadcast like the other leagues, and but you said you wonder who will have the bottle to do that. What's your view on this? I remember talking to you about this a few years ago, and I feel like things have improved a bit, but there's still a serious lack of female pro players at the top level.
I think it's improved, but the games are still male orientated games, really. So most of the pro games are shooting games. League of Legends has done a good job, and a lot of women play that. We know that, but they're not appearing through the systems. I don't know why. If I knew that, I'd be rich. But I've got 3 daughters, I've got 4 sisters, so I'm an advocate for women's gaming. I think ultimately they're going to come through, but the games have got to be appealing. I think Valorant, for example, might make it appealing for girls to play an FPS game. But I talk to my daughters, and they're not interested. They don't want to play FPS games. They just don't want to. I don't know why. But when those women do come through, and that's why I'm an advocate of having a major women's league where those women can compete, and there's a place for them to like get onto the ladder. There's no reason for segregation, like over time. Like, who knows? In 10 years, all the top players might be women. Who knows? We don't know. But I don't see a reason that now you couldn't have a league where women can compete in whatever games, like pick a game. And I think those sponsors that are out there that are trying to market to those women and that demographic, go for it. So I'd like to see it.
Just lastly, Odee, on the Ravens, I think I checked the other day. I don't follow Call of Duty super closely. I think you guys are 7th in the league at the moment. What's your view on that, performances, and what are your long-term goals? Because like you say, you've made this roster change. I'm not super up to speed with that. Have you had someone step away and you've made a change?
We just decided a change is needed just to get us to where we want to be. This league is hard. Like, it's all the best players in the world are in this league, and we've had some really tough tournaments. The last 3 tournaments, we've played the best teams. That's it. We haven't played like the teams at the bottom at all. and we run the best teams close, and we run them close in practice all the time. So I'm not panicking. I think this change is definitely good for us. And yeah, we just go from there. It's like anything in esports. You can't just it's very rare that you just put a team together and you win.
Yeah.
You've got to get everything right, and that's what we're working on to hopefully win.
And it's fine margins as well, right? It's like sport. You know, as Arsenal fans, we've seen players come and go. We've seen players not do so well for Arsenal and then be a megastar elsewhere.
Yeah,
That can happen in esports.
Yeah, and it's not just like turning up and playing games and and then that you should win. It's like what's going on in the background. Like what's the sleep pattern? What did you eat? Like, has anybody had an argument? Anybody not feeling good? Sickness, all that kind of stuff is a factor. Although our last tournament last week was a bit controversial, as the match started with one of our players filling up his water bottle. He wasn't even sitting at his desk. So yeah. Shit happens.
Oh, no, I didn't know about that. Oh dear.
Oh, that's you can check that out. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, okay.
I wasn't impressed.
Oh dear. No worries. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Odee? We're bang on 1 hour here. I think I'm quite impressed with how we've done.
Yeah, I could probably come back and talk for another hour. Happy to. Like, there's so much. It's like the one thing I do want to plug, and I will plug it.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm not getting paid for it, but like. This is Red Eyes Books. So I got this yesterday.
Oh.
So this gives you a real good understanding of what it was like in the first decade of esports. It's pretty cool. So I think you can get it on Amazon, apparently.
Yeah, do you know what? I'm envious, Odee, because I've pre-ordered it, and then I had the publisher reach out to me with my news hat on saying, hey, do you want an early copy of the book review or something? I was like, yes, please. I haven't received it yet. I want to be reading up on it so I can write a review of it. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And of course, that's by Paul Challoner, another esports OG. So I'm looking forward to reading that, absolutely. Odee, yeah, definitely. I could definitely do another hour one day. We'll keep you up to date with anything we're doing at British Esports. Maybe we can do a panel show at some point, and we're doing 3 streams a week now. So
yeah, once we're allowed back in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. I look forward to it. I'm going a little bit crazy, but I can't complain. Odee, listen, thanks so much for your time. We'll put this video on YouTube. Thanks to everyone who's watching. We'll grab some clips from this, especially around your advice for people looking for a career in esports. And fantastic. All the best, Odee. I'm sure I'll catch you soon.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you, Odee. Okay, hi guys. Thank you for watching that. I really appreciate it. I think we're going to raid the Newell now. The Newell are doing, they're of course a university esports body here in the UK, and they're doing a charity stream for the British Red Cross. And we had one of our streams rebroadcast with them as part of their show earlier on, and it was on the Twitch homepage with a few thousand viewers. So that was great to see, and that was our video on our Esports BTEC series of qualifications, which is going to be taught by colleges in the UK and around the world from this September. So please check the Newell out. Elliot's going to remind me how to raid, because I've just realised I'm logged in. I'm not logged in as British Esports here. So maybe Elliot can log in. He's going to do it now. Thank you, Elliot. Yeah, that's a schoolboy error from me. Thank you everyone for watching. We'll be back again. I think this Friday we've got a fun Friday with Elliot. 4 p.m. Casual games, quiz, marbles. They're really good fun and really casual and laid back. You can come and ask Elliot questions and talk esports and be with fellow like-minded great people. So please do check that out. And for other future streams, check out our schedule below. And until next time, Sacco signing out.
from me, Stanley Greatheart Barker, and from Loki, goodbye.